The storm rolled across the valley like angry fists, pummeling the small prefab shelter that Marcus Reeves called home. Rain hammered the reinforced polymer roof while wind howled through the narrow gaps between structures on the outpost colony. Of Hadrian's Rest, most settlers had locked their doors and powered down non-essential systems. Riding out the seasonal tempest that swept across the terraformed plains, Marcus sat alone at his kitchen table, a half-empty bottle of Terran whiskey. Catching amber light from the single lamp he had left powered, his fingers traced old scars that snaked across his knuckles, permanent reminders of a military career he'd rather forget. At 43, his dark hair had started graying at the temples, and the lines around his eyes had deepened, some from squinting in alien suns, others from seeing things no human should. Power conservation protocol initiated, announced the shelter's AI in its flat, emotionless voice. Non-essential systems powered down. Marcus grunted acknowledgement and poured another finger of whiskey. The quiet suited him.
All 11 years.
A combat medic for Earth's expeditionary forces had filled his head with enough noise to last several lifetimes. The screams of the wounded, the orders barked through cum channels. The sizzle of cauterizing wounds in field hospitals, these sounds still visited him in dreams. A sharp, metallic clang cut through the storm's rhythm. Marcus froze, his glass halfway to his lips. The sound had come from his storage shed, 20 meters from the main shelter. He set the glass down silently, years of combat training engaging automatically. Rising from the table, he moved to the weapons locker recessed. In the wall, the standard issue pulse pistol felt familiar in his hand. He checked the charge full and moved toward the door. Local wildlife occasionally sought shelter during storms, but something about the noise felt different. Deliberate.
External motion detected in Sector 3, the AI reported.
2 unidentified life forms. Marcus slipped into the storm, rain immediately soaking through his thin shirt. The mud sucked at his boots as he approached the shed, pistol held low but ready. The shed door was ajar, swinging slightly in the gusting wind. He'd definitely secured it earlier. Pushing it open with the barrel of his pistol, Marcus swept the interior with practiced precision. Storage containers stacked against the wall, spare parts for his atmospheric harvester. Crates of preserved rations all exactly where they should be. But a small puddle of water had formed in the center of the floor, leading behind a stack of containers. "I know you're there," Marcus called out, voice steady. "Show yourselves slowly." Silence answered him for several seconds. Then a small sound, not quite a whimper, not quite a wordy, merged from behind the containers. Marcus kept his weapon, ready as he moved closer. "Last chance," he warned. "Come out now." The stack of containers shifted slightly, and 2 figures emerged. Marcus nearly dropped his pistol in shock. They were young Vashtaria species from the Centauri systems. Their translucent skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, pulsing rapidly in what Marcus recognized as fear. The taller one couldn't have been more than 14 in human years, with elongated limbs and large multifaceted eyes that reflected the dim light. The smaller one, clutching tightly to its companion, appeared barely half that age. "Please," the older one said, voice melodic even in distress. "No hurt us." Marcus lowered his weapon slowly. Vashtari, this far from the Centauri systems, made no sense. Their homeworld was nearly 40 light-years distant, and relations between humans and Vashtari had been strained since the border disputes 5 years ago. "What are you doing here?" he asked, holstering the pistol to appear less threatening. The younger one buried its face against the elder's side. Their clothing was tattered, stained with substances Marcus couldn't identify. Both looked severely malnourished, their skin's luminescence dimmer than it should be. "Ship broken," the elder one explained, struggling with human language. "Bad ones chase. We hide. Find here. Storm coming. Sorry for entering." Marcus ran. Hand through his rain-soaked hair, the nearest settlement with proper authorities was 4 days' journey. Harboring alien refugees, especially Vashtari, could mean trouble with colonial administration. But as a medic, he'd sworn an oath once. An oath that preceded political borders and species differences. "Come inside," he said finally, gesturing toward the main shelter. You need food and dry clothes. The elder's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. Why help? Marcus looked at the trembling pair, remembering faces from his past, faces he couldn't save. "'Cause I've seen enough suffering," he answered simply. "And you're just kids." As they followed him through the storm toward the shelter, Marcus wondered what trouble he was inviting into his carefully constructed isolation. But watching them huddle together against the rain, we knew he couldn't have made any other choice. The door sealed behind them, shutting out the storm's fury, whatever came next. At least tonight, they wouldn't face it alone. The morning light filtered through the shutters as Marcus prepared a nutrient-rich breakfast suitable for Vashtari physiology. His medical training included xenobiology basics, and he recalled that their species required higher copper content than humans. He mixed mineral supplements into a bowl of synthesized protein. The elder Vashtari, who had introduced himself as Nilith, watched Marcus's every move from across the room. The younger one, Zoran, remained curled on the sleeping pad. Marcus had provided exhaustion, still evident in the dim glow of his skin patterns. "He needs medical attention," Marcus said, nodding toward the smaller Vashtari. "Will you let me examine him?" Nilith's four-fingered hand tightened around the edge of the table. "You're a healer." Marcus nodded. "Combat medic, 11 years with Earth's forces." A flicker of recognition crossed Nilith's features. "You fought in the frontier wars?" "Yes," Marcus answered simply, not elaborating. Those memories were locked away for good reason. Reluctantly, Nilith moved aside as Marcus approached Zoran with his medical scanner. The device hummed softly as it passed over the young Vasheri's body. Malnutrition, minor cellular degradation. Consistent with radiation exposure and exhaustion, Marcus read from the display. Nothing irreversible. "How long were you drifting?" 27 cycles, Nilith replied. "Emergency pod had little food. Zoran gave me his portions." Marcus's jaw tightened. "The transport you were on? What happened?" Nilith's bioluminescent patterns darkened, a sign of distress. "Mercenaries. They came for Clanfather's data. He was scientist, working on defensive shields. Put us in escape pod before." The patterns pulsed erratically. Everyone else died. Marcus administered a vitamin compound to the sleeping Zoran, his mind racing. Mercenaries targeting Vashtari scientists meant someone was interested in their technology. Given the brewing tensions between the Terran Alliance and the Krell Dominion, this wasn't just about two refugee children. "These mercenaries," Marcus asked carefully, "were they Krell?" Nilith shook his head. "Human," but spoke of Krell payment. The implication sent a chill through Marcus. Humans working for the Krell could only mean one thing: someone was preparing for war. Over the next few days, Zoran's condition improved. The young Vashtari remained quiet, but began exploring the shelter with cautious curiosity. Marcus caught him examining the medical equipment with surprising understanding. "He watches like you," Nilith explained one evening, as they watched Zoran methodically organizing Marcus's supply cabinet. "Sees patterns, remembers everything," Father said, his mind special. Marcus nodded, understanding dawning. "Your father's research is on memorized it, didn't he?" Nilith's patterns flashed in what Marcus had come to recognize as affirmation. "Father said Zoran must reach Central Command. Information prevents great darkness." Outside, the settlement's warning siren wailed. Marcus moved to the window, peering through the blinds. A sleek transport ship was descending toward the colony's landing pad, not the usual supply vessel. "Stay inside," he ordered, grabbing his jacket. "Lock the door behind me." The settlement's main thoroughfare was already filling with curious colonists. Marcus kept to the edges, who'd pulled forward against the light drizzle. The ship bore commercial markings, but its hull configuration suggested military modifications. Jace Holloway, the settlement's administrator, greeted the newcomers. 3 humans in civilian clothing that didn't quite hide their military bearing. Marcus recognized the stance, the watchful eyes scanning the crowd. Hunters. Just passing through, he overheard the leader saying, "A tall woman with a scar running down her neck. Tracking a stolen shipment. Wondering if you've seen any unusual visitors lately." Marcus slipped away before they could notice him, heart pounding. Back at the shelter, he found Nylith and Zoran huddled in the corner, lights dimmed. "They're here," Nylith whispered, patterns barely visible. "Found us." Marcus checked his pulse pistol and began gathering supplies. "Not yet, they haven't," he said with quiet determination, "and they won't." That night, as rain returned to drum against the shelter's roof, Marcus made a decision he'd promised himself he'd never make again. He would get involved. Looking at the frightened young refugees, he realized his isolation had never truly healed his past failures, and had only postponed facing them. The hunters would search every shelter eventually. They needed to move, and soon. "We leave before dawn," he told Nylith, pulling out an old military-grade communicator he'd kept hidden for years. "I know someone who might help us." For the first time since their arrival, he saw something new in Nylith's multifaceted eyes, cautious hope replacing fear. The pre-dawn darkness cloaked Marcus and the Vishari siblings as they slipped through the settlement's eastern perimeter. Zoran's hand felt impossibly light in Marcus's grip. The young alien's naturally luminescent skin dimmed to almost nothing. Biological response to danger that now served them well? "Stay low," Marcus whispered as they approached Eliza, Jadorn's hydroponics farm. Eliza had been one of the first settlers on Hadrian's Rest, establishing the farm that now supplied most of the colony's fresh produce. More importantly, she had served as a pilot during the same conflicts Marcus had seen as a medic. The door opened before they reached it. Eliza stood silhouetted against the warm light from inside, her weathered face grave. "You've got trouble, Reeves," she said without preamble.
Always.
"Those traitors have been asking questions all night." Marcus ushered the children inside. "How many know about them?" "Just me and Dakota from the communications hub," Eliza replied, securing the door. "He's been scrambling their scanners since they landed. Says they're using military-grade equipment, stuff civilians shouldn't have." In the corner of Eliza's main room, a man rose from a console. Tokata Jin nodded curtly at Marcus, his fingers still flying over the interface. "They're systematic," he reported. "Eastern Quadrant searches begin in 2 hours. You can't stay here long." Marcus watched as Eliza guided the Vashtari children to a table laden with food appropriate for their physiology. The old pilot had clearly prepared for their arrival. "You're taking an awful risk," Marcus said quietly. Eliza's laugh was bitter. "After what those corporate bastards did to my husband's settlement on Vega Prime, I'd hide an entire alien army." To spite them, her expression softened as she watched Zoran cautiously examining a piece of fruit. "Besides, they're just kids." Tokata joined them, lowering his voice. "The mercenaries' communications mentioned high value. Vashtari assets and Krell contract fulfillment. Whatever these children know, it's significant." Marcus nodded grimly. "The younger one has memorized shield technology that could tip the balance if war comes. We need to get them to Central Command." "The nearest Alliance outpost is on Pelorum. Station 3 jumps from here," Tokata said. "Or if your ship hasn't flown in, 5 years?" "7," Marcus corrected, "but she'll fly." A soft chime from Takota's wrist device interrupted them. His expression darkened as he checked the display. "Hey, they've changed their search pattern. They're heading here first." Liza moved immediately, opening a hidden panel in the floor. "Panic room. Built it during the first wave of quakes. Radiation shield should mask their biological signatures." Marcus helped Nylith and Zoran into the narrow space. "Stay absolutely silent," he instructed. "No matter what you hear." Zoran's patterns pulsed, and what Marcus had learned was a question Nylith translated. "He asks if you will come back for us." Marcus met the young alien's multifaceted eyes. "I promise." The hidden panel had barely closed when pounding erupted at the front door. Eliza nodded to Marcus, who slipped into her storage room, pulse pistol ready, through the thin walls. He heard Eliza greeting the visitors with convincing irritation at being disturbed so early. The mercenary leader's voice was measured but held. An unmistakable threat. "We know you served with Marcus Reeves in the Frontier Wars," the woman said. "And we know he's harboring fugitives valuable to our employer." Haven't seen Reeves in weeks, Eliza replied coolly. Man keeps to himself, and my war days are long behind me. Perhaps this will refresh your cooperation, the mercenary suggested. Marcus heard the distinctive sound of a credit chit being placed on the table. 50,000 now. Another 50 when we acquire our targets. That's generous, Eliza said, her tone neutral. But I can't help with information I don't have. The mercenary's voice hardened. We have authorization to conduct a full sweep of this settlement, with or without cooperation, starting here. Marcus tightened his grip on his weapon, calculating odds. 3 mercenaries, at least 2 more in their ship. Bad odds in a direct confrontation. Then another voice joined the conversation of Koda's from outside. Commander Voss? Emergency transmission from your vessel. Something about Alliance patrol ships approaching the system. A tense silence followed, then hurried footsteps and the door slamming. Marcus waited until Eliza opened the storage room door. They're gone for now, she said. Dakota's bluff bought us time, but they'll be back once they realize there are no Alliance ships nearby. Marcus nodded, helping the Vashtari children from their hiding place. Then we move now. My ship needs at least 4 hours of prep work. I'll handle that, Eliza said decisively. Dakota can create a false trail leading to the western canyons. Buy you time. As they finalized their plan, Marcus noticed Zoran studying a star chart on Eliza's wall. The young Vashtari's fingers traced a path through systems, stopping at a point far from any marked colony. What is he showing? Marcus asked Nylith. Nylith's patterns shifted in recognition. Not Alliance outpost. Father's hidden research station. Complete shield prototype there. Marcus exchanged glances with Eliza and Tokata. The stakes had just risen significantly. Then that's where we're headed, Marcus decided. As soon as night falls, the old Sparrow-class medical transport hadn't broken atmosphere in 7 years. Yet as Marcus worked through the pre-flight sequence, the familiar hum of its systems felt like greeting an old friend. Eliza had done remarkable work in the few hours she'd had replacing power couplings, recharging fuel cells, and updating the navigation system. She'd fly, Eliza confirmed, wiping grease from her hands. Not pretty, but she'd get you to the research station if the coordinates are accurate. Outside the hangar, the settlement had fallen unusually quiet. Marcus knew it wasn't coincidence the colonists were creating a diversion, drawing the mercenaries' attention to the community center where Takoda had engineered a false alarm about unregistered alien biosignatures. Nylith and Zoran sat strapped into the medical berths, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with anxiety. The younger Vashtari clutched a small device Marcus recognized as a data crystal, likely containing their father's research. 30 minutes to launch window, Marcus announced, checking atmospheric conditions. Once we break orbit, we'll need to make the jump quickly before they can track us. A sharp alarm cut through the relative quiet. Marcus switched to external cameras to see 3 figures approaching the hangar. The mercenary leader and 2 heavily armed escorts. They've figured it out, Eliza muttered, sealing the inner hatches. I'll buy you time. Before Marcus could protest, she had slipped through the airlock. On the monitor, he watched her confront the mercenaries, arms raised in apparent surrender. What is she doing? Nylith asked, patterns flickering rapidly. Marcus recognized the stance. Subtle hand signal Eliza made behind her back, an old military signal for prepare for chaos. Something brave and probably stupid, he answered, powering up the ships. Defensive systems. On screen, Eliza appeared to be negotiating. Then, with practiced precision, she dropped a small device that exploded in a blinding flash of light and smoke. The mercenaries reeled backward as Eliza sprinted back toward the hangar. Marcus opened the airlock just enough for her to dive through before sealing it again. Alarms blared as weapons fire impacted the hangar doors. Launch now, Eliza shouted. Scrambling into the co-pilot's seat, Dick, they've called their ship. Marcus engaged the engines, feeling the old vessel shudder as it broke free of its moorings. The hangar roof retracted painfully slowly, revealing a sky already darkening with the mercenaries' approaching vessel. Hang on, he warned as he pushed the throttle to maximum. The Sparrow lurched upward, straining against gravity. Warning lights flashed across the console as they accelerated faster than the old ship was designed to handle. Through the viewport, Marcus saw the mercenary vessel, adjusting its course to intercept. "They're locking weapons," Eliza reported tensely. Marcus executed a maneuver that sent them skimming dangerously close to the settlement's communication tower. The pursuing ship hesitated, unwilling to risk civilian casualties that would attract Alliance attention. "That won't stop them once we clear the colony," Marcus said grimly. Zoran suddenly unbuckled himself, moving to the navigation console despite Nihilith's protests. His slender fingers danced across the interface, inputting a series of coordinates. "What's he doing?" Eliza asked, as the ship's course began to change. Nihilith's patterns shifted in what Marcus had learned was surprise. "Using gravity well, planet's moon, hide us?" Understanding dawned as Marcus watched the flight path Zoran had plotted a slingshot. Maneuver around Hadrian's larger moon, using its gravitational pull to accelerate while simultaneously shielding them from sensors. "Smart kid," Eliza commented. Adjusting their course to follow the plotted path, the mercenary ship fired a warning shot that dissipated harmlessly in their wake. As they approached the moon's dark side, Marcus engaged the jump drive preparation sequence. "We'll only have a 3-second window when we emerge," he warned. "If the drive doesn't engage immediately..." Eliza's weathered face broke into a grin. "Then we improvise, like old times." As the Sparrow swung around the moon's cratered surface, accelerating from the gravitational assist, Marcus looked back at the Vashtari children. Nihilith held his brother protectively, but their patterns now pulsed with something beyond fear determination. "Ready, jump drive," Marcus ordered as they cleared the moon's shadow. The mercenary ship appeared on their sensors, adjusting course to intercept. Now. Stars stretched into lines as the jump drive engaged, hurling them across light years in an instant. The pursuing ship vanished from their sensors, left behind in normal space. In the sudden quiet of jump space, Marcus allowed himself a moment's relief. Then he turned to their unexpected passengers. "All right," he said firmly. "I think it's time you told us exactly what's on that data crystal and why it's worth killing for." The hidden research station orbited an unremarkable brown dwarf. Its exterior designed to blend with the surrounding debris field invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. As Marcus guided the Sparrow through the carefully concealed approach vector Zoran had provided, he reflected on how completely his life had changed in just 1 week. "Defense systems are scanning us," Eliza reported from the co-pilot's seat. Nihilith leaned forward, reciting a sequence of musical tones that Marcus's translator couldn't process. The station's external lights flickered in response, and a docking bay door slowly opened. "Recognition code," Nihilith explained. "Father taught us." The landing was smoother than Marcus expected. As the airlocks cycled open, they were greeted not by humans or Vashtari, but by a series of maintenance drones that chirped and hovered around Zoran with what almost seemed like affection. "They recognize his biosignature," Nihilith said, watching. "His brother communicate with the machines through patterns of light. Father programmed them." The station hummed with dormant energy as they moved deeper inside. Holographic displays activated automatically, showing star maps, ship designs, and defensive formations. Marcus recognized Alliance territory, Krell, expansion zones, and most concerning planned invasion corridors. "The Krell are preparing for a full-scale attack," Eliza whispered, studying the projections. "Multiple-pronged assault, targeting civilian colonies first." Zoran approached a central console and placed his hand on the interface. The station responded instantly, systems awakening as data flowed from the young Vashtari's memories into the computers. Schematics appeared, showing a shield technology unlike anything Marcus had seen. "Adaptive resonance barriers," Nihilith explained, pride evident in his voice. "Father's work can protect entire planets, makes Krell weapons useless." Marcus studied the design, understanding now why the mercenaries had been so determined. With this, the Alliance colonies would be impervious to surprise attacks, and the Krell want to ensure that never happens, Eliza added grimly. A warning. Alarm interrupted them. The station's sensors had detected an approaching vessel. The mercenary ship had somehow tracked them. How? Marcus demanded, checking the defensive systems. Zoran's patterns pulsed rapidly as he communicated with the station's computers. A diagnostic report appeared, showing a microscopic tracker embedded in the data crystal itself.
So clever.
Bastards, Eliza muttered. Let us lead them straight here. Marcus made a quick decision. Nihilith, can the station broadcast the shield schematics to Alliance headquarters? The young Vashtari hesitated. Yes, but transmission takes time. They will arrive before it completes. Then we, by that time, Marcus said firmly, turned to Elisa. Remember that maneuver we used in the Deneb system? The false retreat? A slow smile spread across her face. With half a dozen mercenary ships on our tail. We take the Sparrow out, draw them away while the station transmits. Zoran suddenly approached, his patterns shifting in complex arrangements. Nihilith translated, he says station has defenses. It's old but functional. He can operate them. Marcus knelt to the young Vashtari's level. It's too dangerous. They're coming for you. Zoran's patterns stabilized, projecting resolve rather than fear. Through Nihilith he communicated, Father died to protect this knowledge. I will not hide. Something shifted in Marcus as he looked at the young alien. He recognized the determination, the same force that had driven him through battlefields. To reach the wounded, regardless of species or faction. The next hour was a blur of preparation. Elisa reconfigured the Sparrow's signature to appear as multiple vessels. Marcus activated the stations. Dormant defense grid, surprised at how quickly his military instincts returned. The Vastari siblings worked in perfect synchronization, Zoran's prodigious memory guiding them to hidden weapon caches and system overrides their father had installed. When the mercenary ship arrived, they faced not a helpless research station, but a coordinated defense. The Sparrow darted through the debris field, drawing fire while concealed batteries on the station itself targeted the mercenaries' engines and weapon systems. From the command center, Marcus watched the battle unfold, coordinating their efforts with a calm he hadn't felt in years. When a mercenary boarding party managed to breach the outer airlock, he and Eliza were waiting, using their knowledge of close-quarter tactics to drive them back. Transmission at 60%, Nihilith reported, fingers flying across the controls. Alliance acknowledges receipt. The mercenary commander's voice crackled over the comm system. You can't win, Reeves. The Krell have already dispatched a battle group. Surrender the Vashtari and the data, and you might live. Marcus exchanged glances with his unlikely crew, a retired pilot, 2 alien refugees, and himself, a medic who had sworn never to fight again. In their eyes he saw not defeat, but resolve. We're not surrendering anything, he responded. And we're not alone. As if summoned by his words, new signatures appeared on their sensor civilian vessels from Hadrian's Rest, led by Takota's communications ship. Dozens of colonists who had decided that some principles transcended species and borders. Looks like you've made some enemies, Lisa observed with satisfaction, as the mercenary vessel retreated under the combined harassment of the colonial ships. Transmission complete, Nihilith announced triumphantly. Alliance Command confirms receipt of all data. In the sudden quiet, Marcus felt a small hand slip into his. Zoran looked up at him, patterns glowing with what Marcus now recognized as gratitude. Nihilith joined them, his own patterns synchronizing with his brother's. What happens now? Nihilith asked softly. Marcus looked around at the station that would soon become an Alliance outpost, at the fleet of civilian ships that had risked everything for strangers, at Eliza's knowing smile. Now, he said, feeling a peace he hadn't known in years, we build something new. 3 months later, the research station had been officially commissioned as Alliance Outpost Vashtar, named in honor of the scientist who had sacrificed everything to protect both his children and countless civilians. Marcus stood at the observation deck, watching as transport ships arrived with personnel and equipment. Zoran and Nihilith had been granted full alliance. Citizenship, the first of their kind, and Zoran's unique abilities had earned him a place in the Xenoscience Division, despite his young age. Nihilith had chosen to work alongside Marcus in the outpost's newly established medical center. As the stars shone beyond the viewport, Marcus realized he was no longer running from his past. The guilt and isolation that had driven him to Hadrian's Rest had been replaced by something he had never expected to find again: a purpose. In a family, unconventional as it might be, sometimes healing others, he reflected, was the surest path to healing oneself.